Hi you guys, welcome. It's been a while since I've done full-on horoscope videos. I love to do it. They're so time consuming. I've been very busy, and I still am going to be busy for a while, and so I decided to do readings that are good for 3 months. So like for a 3-month time period. I hope that's not like, I don't know, in one ear and out the other in sort of the span of 3 months. That's kind of a while, but hopefully it'll be kind of a generalization for that time, and then I'll be able to do some smaller readings too in the sort of in-between time. Go back and reference these videos, of course. Yeah, just to give you guys a little bit of sort of something. So they're for June, July, and August, and they can be for any sign in any planet, whatever resonates. I also want to say, because I am doing or the structure of these is sort of longer because they are 3 months long, and I wanted to kind of like do some extra, so they're longer. And I do have a basically they're like 4 parts. I'm giving you a general information, and then a sort of a timeline, which is just sort of a, I don't know, supplementation to the general information, and then advice and outcome for that, and then also doing an overview of your love, career, finances and stuff, and also health. And so that's what I wanted to say, was because I am sort of integrating like a health thing, just to talk about that for a minute. And this goes for everything, right? I don't really worry too much about doing readings and giving people advice, because I feel like in the end people kind of, I don't know, they end up doing what they're going to do and what they feel is right, sort of. It's just like kind of like a guidepost a little bit. So you're really looking for that familiarity. If it's not familiar, don't follow it as advice, right? And be conscious of yourself using any kind of advice, but especially things like this, as sort of like an excuse for anything. You know, and especially when it comes to your health and stuff like that, obviously, like health professionals, all that kind of stuff. But it's just kind of like a guideline. If it seems familiar, you know what I mean, you might want to go back to it and look at kind of what other information is surrounding that, right? Sort of thing. So hopefully that all makes sense. I filmed these videos. I've been traveling, so I've been filming these videos, sort of camping. That's why it's taking me so hecking long, and I'm like way behind schedule because I'm just, you know, weather and stuff like that, wind and all that. So they're kind of filmed in various locations, environments, quality. Hopefully it's not too much of a problem, the audio and stuff like that. As usual, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think, if these were helpful, if you enjoyed them. Give me a thumbs up if you can, if you'd like to, and subscribe and all that. And yes, I hope that you enjoy. Hello, Pisces. General energy. Let's start with your general energy. I'm getting the feeling that you kind of can't sit still. You're definitely in sort of a dreamland, imagination land, and kind of like wanting to do all this stuff, but it's sort of in a non-form kind of still. Like you're sort of in a, it's like a prequel phase, if that makes any sense. Like you're trying to get something going for sure, but it's very much in its like a very like before it even exists kind of stage. I'm seeing kind of like a test of wills, sort of like where it comes maybe to creative differences or some kind of differences that you're having with somebody or somebody's or you know, as an institution or something like that, or even just like a definition of something, right? Something is a little bit too maybe strict for you. To like requiring of correctness, which might be kind of like differing from what you actually want to be doing, right? It's like what you have to be doing versus what you like want to be doing versus what you are doing, and it's this kind of like willpower struggle kind of thing. because you really do want to make these things happen, but it's like you also just want to live like in a fantasy land, and you might just be also feeling like so creative right now too that it's like hard to like focus and set down and try to like do the things that you want to do. What's interesting is what I'm seeing kind of leaving and coming in, which is the energy that's kind of leaving, is this very like trying really hard to interact, excuse me, with everything and everyone, and like in like kind of every capacity that you can, sort of, if that makes any sense. Like I'm just trying to like exhibit your like kind of extroverted side and network and connect and stuff, and kind of maybe a like sloppy way, like not very graceful and not very effectively maybe, but been trying, or maybe somebody's been trying to communicate with you in that way, but something like that, some kind of like communication, connection, experience and stuff like that, that's like it's been sort of hit and miss. And it's kind of what's coming in to replace that is, I don't know, it's weird, it's confusing. I might draw a couple more cards actually. Yeah, it's like both like kind of like ending, but like it's like open, but like also on the defensive, if that makes sense. I don't know, it's kind of interesting. It's a little bit like turning from something that's a little bit more of like a attempted positivity to something that's a little bit more like somehow reactionary. Maybe anger for sure, but also could be a sort of an acquiescing a little bit, and trying to control a little bit less, and sort of just giving way to what's going on around you, and letting that kind of dictate your behavior a little bit more, rather than this kind of like struggle and like putting on a persona to try to like convince people of something or something like that. It's a little bit more like, well, fuck it, fine, like this is who I am, you know what I mean, even though it's not that glorious or whatever, and being kind of like just like I just said. Yeah, let's still pick a couple more cards. Yeah, there's a lot of fiery energy in here. Some anger, some very, very like forward, and yeah, defensive. But maybe a little bit more real and more truthful for sure, right? Even if it's not super duper positive in itself, you know, the truth is more positive, I think, in this scenario, because what I'm seeing down here phasing out is just, it's not really anything. It's pretty meaningless kind of in a way, right? So looks kind of good in that sense, but a little bit aggressive, I want to say. Pretty fiery, maybe some anger for sure. Defensiveness, cutting ties could be with certain things. Yeah, let's see. I'm going to put some advice down. Actually, let's do a timeline first. Yeah, let's do a little bit of a timeline first. It seems like there's a lot going on here. This sort of power struggle, and then separately this kind of like weird moving forward energy into sort of a negativity almost. So yeah, I'm going to just put down some more cards for a timeline to see if that'll give us some more clarity, and then also some advice and outcome. Okay, timeline-wise, a lot of like intuition in here. Intuition and adjustment and acknowledgement, right? Maybe not even realization, because you may already have known, but just acknowledgement and like acceptance, kind of. Definitely seeing you like releasing, giving in, and then putting up boundaries, and then cutting ties or cutting some things out, right? So you're accepting things, you're figuring out what's working, what's not working, and then you're cutting out the things that aren't working. So that's pretty cool, and that's all just kind of in the first part. And yeah, it has a lot to do with your intuition, things being illuminated, even like extrasensory perception kind of stuff. And then I see you making some adjustments for sure, making some compromises maybe, especially even with yourself and your habits and what you want to be doing versus what you need to be doing, and that kind of thing that I was talking about before. Yeah, and really figuring out how can you make these things happen still the way that you want them to happen, despite having to make all these kinds of adjustments, right? I do see you having to sort of come to terms with some things and having to face some things, especially towards the end, as far as like the plan goes, I guess. Like, what is your plan, right? And to actually look at things and face some of your kind of like fears about that. Yeah, a very much like kind of like it's almost like a nightmarish vibe, but it's after like a lot of like positivity and growth. So I'm thinking that it's yeah, just some nervousness related to having dealt with all this, right? And been making all these kinds of compromises and adjustments and reflections and cutting things out and adding new things and that kind of thing. I just want to pull another card. I don't know why. Maybe a couple more. I'm like, ugh, I'm going to go over time. I don't think I am, though. Yeah, definitely shying away from some things. But they're things that are very positive for you, constructive, original, creative, and that kind of thing. So, but you're kind of, it's freaking you out, I guess. Whatever it is towards the end here. So, I'll pick these up and put some advice down and an outcome card for this. Hopefully that will enlighten some things here as far as what to do at the end with getting kind of cold feet, maybe. Okay, I'll be right back. Advice. Don't be, like, don't stay on the surface. Like, I guess the best, like, just simple way to put it is, like, well, the water's cold, so you don't want to go in, so you, like, just kind of, like, put your feet in, blah, blah, blah. But obviously, once you actually are in the water, you put your whole body in the water, that moment of shock is, like, better, and then the water's not so cold, that kind of thing. Because, yeah, you're like, contradicted advice is, just, yeah, stay away from the superficiality, basically. You want to go deep. Just, that's kind of what I'm seeing as your, like, virtue also, like, what you really can do, is come with that depth and that, authenticity, self-importance, but humility, emotional intelligence, and just emotional kind of preferences, kind of. I don't know, just come with all that stuff rather than kind of playing it safe and that kind of thing. And I'm seeing that also could be your blind spot, so you might be like, have a tendency to want to go there because you are afraid, right? Your outcome, I ended up pulling a few cards. What I'm seeing is, yes, a lot of nervousness and fear throughout this, basically, but I think that you will find that you also, like, you're supported and like the environment is supportive, and also that like you belong in the environment more than like you maybe think you do, and your powers of like manifestation are pretty good and solid, even though there's like a level of like anxiety kind of throughout. I'm not really seeing that ending. It is in the outcome section, but so is some of this, like, I'll just show you what I'm looking at. Virgo in reverse, this 4, which is my like stable environment card, and Capricorn. So it's a very stable energy, but it still has kind of an anxiety to it. So that just kind of is what it is, but don't let it stop you, and remain kind of steadfast, like in yourself, like confident in yourself, like don your armor, and just kind of go into it, right? That's the only way it's kind of going to happen, I guess. If you don't go into it, you just won't go into it. Like, I guess it's kind of up to you, right? But there's safety there. It's not really like you're just like falling through. It's just that you're coming to it with a level of like confusion, maybe anticipation, that kind of thing. And also then I also wanted to say to like prepare yourself, right? Don't just think like, okay, like in order to jump in, you just have to jump in, right? Without any preparation or anything like that. Like, prepare yourself. Do whatever you can to help that landing be easier and to facilitate you, you know, succeeding and all that. Don't just go for it because you feel like if you don't go for it, it's never going to happen. Like, go for it because it'll never happen, but prepare yourself. Yeah. And I think that prep work, a lot of that prep work can be a lot of like just emotional work, right? On yourself. That sounds a little strange, but yeah. So I will put down some cards for health, career, finances, and love for this time. I'll be right back. Let's talk about love first, relationships and things like that. Seems like kind of a chill time. Yeah, and they want you to focus on kind of dividing your energy a little bit, whether that's between the people in your life or between your relationships and other things in your life. You know what I mean? They don't want you to focus specifically on, or they specifically don't want you to focus on like one person or one dynamic or something like that. That doesn't mean, you know, that you can't just date one person at that time, but just that they don't want you to put all your energy into that, right? It seems kind of stable. It seems like it's like whatever's happening is going along, and it's not like requiring of a lot, right? So that's okay. It looks like if you if you do that and you get your energies too like focused on one thing, you could end up feeling kind of like abandoned or abandoned, kind of lacking basically in the other direction. If you kind of diversify, I swear I'm using that in almost every reading. If you diversify your energies, just more plenty. I don't know. Like in one part it's like a lacking, and then in the other one it's like a there's just more happening, more fulfillment and that kind of thing, more possibility and things like that. Just yeah, just more. So let's see. Health-wise, excuse me. I'm seeing that you might be having some like health like insights, intuitions or something, or your body, whether it's your physical health, your mental health or something like that. Something is like kind of cluing you into what's wrong a little bit, like if it's a little bit of pain maybe, or just like somehow you kind of know, or you can tell when something's sort of coming on, right? A headache coming on or something like that, and they don't want you to sort of just ignore it and pretend everything's fine, right? Be proactive and do what you can, and listen to signals and signs, and use your intuition and create kind of a, do what you can and what you know you need to do to kind of make yourself feel better before it gets out of hand, before you have to deal with it as kind of a huge, horrible pain or something like that. If you can, to try to make sure that you heed those signs and things like that and do what you can to try to prevent them. And yeah, it looks like it can be good and not super horrible, I hope. If you do that, if you're specific about your actions and things like that, that it can at least lessen things and actually make you feel pretty good. And also, you could, excuse me, you could come to some kind of like group situation in this. I don't know if you kind of are accurate and specific in paying attention to this and putting energy towards it. Some kind of, I don't know, if support group or something like that, but I'm getting this, this is sort of the outcome card for that, which is very like a social type of card, but also has to do with things being good, I guess, if that makes sense. So that's kind of positive. Just be specific and work for it. Don't put it off and pretend it's not happening, because then you're going to have to deal with it later. So, okay, career / finances and things like that. Why is it looking kind of stuck? I can't get the words out. Yeah, looking kind of stuck. Don't sit around and hope, basically, is what it's saying, or you're going to remain kind of stuck. Take some initiative, be creative, use your intuition. That sort of depth that I was talking about earlier is a good place to sort of put that, a sense of authenticity, a sense of self-importance, again, like I said, creativity, could be something sort of ending and phasing out too, if it's that, like not just kind of like doing what you're doing and hoping that that's going to keep working out, but actually switching gears a little bit might be a necessity, but just remaining kind of open to your intuition and that kind of thing. Yeah, and that's when you're going to have a lot more doors opening up. It's almost the complete opposite energy of what I'm seeing now currently happening, which is this kind of like stuck. It's not necessarily like a lacking, which is good, but it's like a very stuckness. Yeah, and to open that up a lot, to kind of open the floodgates a little bit. Don't just do the hoping thing. Actually, visualize some things, visualize and then actualize, and take some steps and be kind of insistent, shall I say, a little bit. Yeah, and not just doing the hoping, praying thing. Okay, I hope that this was helpful. Thank you guys for watching. Goodbye.